to order at May 15th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Will the clerk please take roll?
Councilmember Blanchett.
Here.
Councilmember Naga. Councilmember Norton.
Here.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Here.
Councilmember Robbins.
Here.
Mayor Swift.
Here.
Councilmember Workman.
Here.
Let the record show that Councilwoman Ganaga is excused. Tonight we have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman O'Neill and the invocation by Councilman Workman. Will you please rise?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Precious Lord, we thank you for our many blessings, and we ask that you might bless our elected officials in their decision-making manners for the best of our community. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that. Now we have awards, presentations, and proclamations. I don't think we have any, but do we have some announcements, Jeff?
Yes, Your Honor, we do. Mike Kettler in the Golf Department. I just want to let everyone know, well, today was our 50th anniversary party at the golf course today, but 50 years is pretty cool to be in business. But also on June 3rd, it's a Saturday, we're having the drive, chip, and putt contest for kids ages 7 to 15, I believe it is. And the deadline to sign up for that is May 29th at 4 p.m. on the drive, chip, and putt website.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yes, Your Honor. Chief John Allen.
Thanks, Jeff, Mayor and Council. Wednesday, we're having our first responders and residents once again. It's going to be held at Forest Elementary School from 6 to 7. We should have some pizza there and some bike safety stuff to hand out. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you might get a good turnout this time. Go ahead.
And not last but least, Todd Dickman in the Recreation Department.
Yep, thank you. Just wanted to invite everyone out to Young Patriots Park on Memorial Day, May 29th, for our Memorial Day ceremony hosted by the city and Legion Post 389. So please come out and honor those who gave their lives for us. And also just wanted to let everyone know we're only about a month away from Summerfest. June 15th, 16th, and 17th will be Summerfest, and Caesar Capital Management is our title sponsor back again this year. So we will have the carnival and bands and the American Legion beer tent, so all kinds of things for people to do and participate during that weekend.
Thank you, Todd. A busy summer coming up. Anything else there, Jeff?
No, that's it, Your Honor.
I would just like to say that this week is Law Enforcement Week. So asking the community to thank a cop when you see them, keep them in their prayers. We appreciate all they do for our community. They keep us nice and safe. And Chief Allen, thanks to you and all your officers. Thank you very much. And Councilman Norton had something to say.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to personally thank the fire department. I had to call 911 this morning for an individual in my household. And I was so blessed that I live in this city because they were there in no time. So, Chief, please thank your firefighters. I have 4 of them there in a matter of minutes, and I truly always knew how important ALS is, but I got to experience it firsthand this morning. So, God bless your men and women. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. With that, approval of the minutes of the 5/1/23 regular Riverview City Council meeting and condensed version for publication. What's council's pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Robbins, supported by Councilman Norton. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Norton.
Yes.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Yes.
Councilmember Robbins.
Yes.
Mayor Swift.
Yes.
Councilmember Workman.
Yes.
Councilmember Blanchett.
Yes.
6.1, conduct a public hearing on the proposed 2023/24 annual operating budget and supporting tax rates for the city of Riverview. I'll read a little bit of a background on that so people know what this public hearing is all about. The proposed fiscal year 2023-24 operating budget and supporting tax rates were presented to the City Council by the City Manager on April 14th, 2023. The City Council met in study sessions on the 24th and 25th to review the proposed budget. The proposed budget book has been available at the City Clerk's office, the Riverview Public Library, and the city's website for interested parties to review. No council action is requested with the exception of noting public and written comments. Budget adoption and supporting tax rates for the adoption of the fiscal year 2023-24 is scheduled for June 5th, 2023 at the City Council meeting. The public hearing also incorporates the public notification requirements for the adoption of supporting tax levies relative to the annual budget process. So at this time at 7:05, we will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the mayor and council, please approach this podium, state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments to 5 minutes. And this does not take away from your time for the for public comment at that time. Yes, sir.
I live at 18207 Valade. I just want to reiterate what I said during the study session, and that is, Mr. Dobek, I thought you did one heck of a job with the budget, not only because it was your first budget as city manager, but just overall, and knowing we have no finance director and the like, not only yourself, but everybody that worked on it with you did one heck of a job. Because while budgets can be rather tedious and dry at times, I felt after a while of looking at it, it just kind of flowed, and before I knew it, I was at the end of it. So I wanted to state that once again for you. Thank you.
Anybody else for the public hearing? Seeing none, I will look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So move, Your Honor.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Workman, supported by Councilwoman O'Neill. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Yes.
Councilmember Robbins.
Yes.
Mayor Swift.
Yes.
Councilmember Workman.
Yes.
Councilmember Blanchett.
Yes.
Councilmember Norton.
Yes.
Now is the time for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the mayor and council, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. Try to keep your comments to 5 minutes. There is no sharing of times and there is no rebuttals, and please be respectful. And I do believe the city clerk will keep us pretty on point at 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Ken Lambert, and I live at 29, oh God,
It's on Grange Road somewhere, isn't it?
on Grange. I live on Grange. Anyway, I come to talk about three things: dirt, meeting, and ordinances. The first one is about I can't get a meeting with the mayor since it was canceled back in November, but my neighbors had two. And I could not get a meeting with you, Mr. Mayor, until after this ordinance that you passed last week. I find that awfully amazing.
I do have time for, away, and I
when I
know
was
there were some
told-
scheduling conflicts.
I was told I can only have one subject and one subject only. And that's what I was told. And so I come to talk to you about that, talk to you about the dirt and harassment from my neighbors. I have had a neighbor that has hindered me on every turn. I ain't going to go into all the details, but the biggest one was when I put an egress door in and I moved the dirt to the front. But beside my driveway, it goes up on a bridge. And so I put the dirt there so I could ride my riding lawnmower up and make it easier. And my neighbor has called the city. She's called Wayne County Drain Commission. She's called FEMA. And the company that does the landscape for flood insurance. Everybody said it was fine, so she came to you and demanded that dirt be moved. And the only way that could happen was because you passed an ordinance saying only 2 yards of dirt can be put in at the very most at a time. So, and then finally, I know I only have 5 minutes. Finally, talking about the ordinance lady that came to my house, I put in post for a privacy fence. And the inspector came out and looked at it, gave me a sticker saying it's good. Ordinance lady, after I put the post in, the ordinance lady came out, banging on my door at 9 o'clock in the morning, waking my wife up and demanding, screaming at her that those posts had to come down because they was further up than the house. Now, personally, I'm kind of tired of looking at my neighbor, so I just wanted to put that out of my mind. But when she did that, and then my wife says, I got a sticker, I got approval, that doesn't matter. And then my wife said, well, come back here, look at this. She says, if you make me come back there, there's plenty on your property I can find to cite you with. So then, the next day, I guess it was the next day, but the guy that helped me put in I had a deck put in, not a deck, but a patio, big cement patio. And because he didn't come in and pull the permit quickly, I was supposed to pull it. I'm the homeowner. I was supposed to do it, but I didn't. And he come in and pulled it. He was a friend of the family. But because he has a cement company, they fined him. They charged him double the price of the permit. And then 5 days later, after he paid that, he gets a citation in the mail, a ticket saying that a permit was not pulled. So not only does he pay double, he pays for a ticket also. And I find that just amazing how Riverview would do that to its people. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Randy Upton, I live on Mulberry Street in Riverview. Okay, I got about 5 things I wanted to bring up. The only thing I ask is that you guys can comment them on at the end of the meeting, or you can put the information in the Riverview Register. So the first thing I want to talk about is the mayor wrote an article and he alluded to we may have to take Canadian garbage in for a few years. I thought that was settled. Now we want to go back and bring in trash from Canada? I'll tell you what, let's put that one on the ballot. It's ridiculous. We're supposed to be phasing out of the garbage business, and now we're thinking about going to Canada to get more. Not even in our own country. Ridiculous. Okay, marijuana. 9 people camped out, at least as far as I was concerned, to get permits to go in the pot business in Riverview. My understanding is that 3 or 4 got approved, okay? But yet I read comments in the Riverview Register that, hey, in a few years, we're going to have 10 to 12 sites selling marijuana in the city. What? That's ridiculous. Anybody should be ashamed for making that kind of comment. As far as I'm concerned, that's inciting the people, getting people riled up with untruth. That's really being one-sided. So I had a comment on it, and I'll continue to comment on that one. Okay? You know, you got people that have got approved or got a license, however you've managed this so far, they're investing money in building and equipment to put that stuff in. Now we're going to put it to a vote of the people. Wait a minute. It's too late. Beside that, you are elected, this council is elected, to make those decisions. We can't put everything on the ballot every time we want to do something. Totally ridiculous. I predict that eventually the city will get sued and they'll end up paying out one way or the other. Doesn't even need to be like that. You know, I've done some study on marijuana sales, and the peak's already been here. If you really want to know if your fears are you're going to have a bunch of potheads hanging out on 4th Street, well, then get in touch with Riverview and ask the chief of police over there what kind of problems he have. And then you could put that in the Riverview Register to sell your point. Have you asked for help from Debbie Dingle? I see her face is in the paper with you guys. Have you asked her for help? What kind of help? Brownfield redevelopment. I was in front of this council a couple times already, and I asked them, do you know that the EPA says a property owner cannot pollute his property and then walk away or not use it at all, like ArcoChem is, all that vacant property, nothing's happening, you know, it's getting nothing on the tax rolls or a very small amount. They polluted it, you guys should know who polluted it. If it was them, then you got to force them to clean it up, because that's what the EPA says you're supposed to do. So that's all that property. I'm living here for 30 years and I'm driving by up and down Pennsylvania and nothing's been done. So that's a huge opportunity cost for this city to increase their tax revenue. And I don't see or hear not one thing being done. You purchased land to build a road to go to Ellen Road. I heard it was like you guys bought 100 acres. For what? The road ain't going through the Ellen. It's never going to go through the Ellen. The county is saying, you got to get out of the garbage business, guys. No more approval. I don't know. I'd like to know how much money we spent chasing permission from Wayne County when they tried to tell you nicely, no, it's time to move on. And if we have 10 to 12 years of time left in that thing, what you ought to do is save it for Riverview residents and just take garbage from Riverview. You've already nailed the people for 1.5 mills for garbage collection. But yet we already have our own garbage hill, and it still has capacity left. So we ought to use it for our residents. It's ridiculous. I can go on and on about this kind of stuff. You know, we got to start getting some answers and solutions in this city. It's unbelievable. You're going to end up going to the taxpayers to jack up, their property taxes. You got 40 acres across from Ferndale Cemetery. I suggest you put in $400,000 houses in there. And the city's share of property taxes probably going to equal out to be somewhere around $4,000 every year. Times that by 100 homes, you got $400,000. That's the type of development we need. That's what we need to be talking about. We do a great job on having a nice city party, bringing in bands, all that good stuff. But in the meantime, the city's rotting behind our backs because people that get elected to these positions don't seem to be wanting to make any moves. So sooner or later, you're going to have to, because you're going to be coming to us for more money. Thank you for your time.
Sure. Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll move. Contest to be last again.
Yeah, I didn't want to follow that up, but he said a lot of important things, so Brian Webb, 20271. On behalf of the Riverview Community Neighborhood Watch, I wanted to thank everybody that turned out last Wednesday. I think Mayor Swift, you would agree that's one of our largest turnouts in a while, and it's very encouraging to see the residents are still interested and want to participate. So one of the good things that came from that meeting is a reminder that we do have a program called Pirate Eyes, which if anybody has cameras that face the street, such as a Ring camera or any other type of property camera, please reach out to the police department and notify them. All they're asking for is your name and contact information. So if there is some sort of crime on your street or in the local area, they already have a list of names of people they can reach out to and ask them to check their footage to see if there's anything of interest that would assist them in their investigation. The other thing I'd like to mention is that we'll be participating in Summerfest again this year, having a table where we'll be selling some sundries, which is basically pops, waters, some candy items, and some other good suggestions from the group. And all the money that we make for that will go to fund our National Night Out, which will be the first Tuesday in August, which this year is Tuesday, August 1st, from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Riverview Young Patriots Park at the gazebo. And if anybody's not familiar with the National Night Out, it's an evening of camaraderie with our first responders, so our police and our fire department, and a chance for the community to get together and spend time getting to know one another. And we'll have things like inflatables, water slide. Usually Serendipity comes with their ice cream, Carry-Ann Clown Caravan, and some other vendors. If you're interested in being a vendor, please reach out to me at riverviewcommunitynw@gmail.com. We'd love to have you. And Mayor Swift already eloquently spoke about this being Police Week. The only thing I would add is please put in your remembrance and your prayers those poor officers that made the ultimate sacrifice this year. That's another important part of Police Week. And thank God we have none of those fatalities in our police department or fire department. So may God continue to protect our first responders. The other thing I'd like to bring to attention is the McLeod Steel Community Advisory Group met last Thursday, and along with Eagle, we reviewed calcium hydroxide, which is one of the chemicals that are in high quantity on the property. And when that chemical mixes with water, it creates a high pH, which then can cause chemical burns by skin exposure. And this became to light again because they're connecting the railroad tracks there at the northern portion of the property right by the full moon. And when they were digging up those railroad tracks, they exposed more of this chemical, which then mixed with the water and is leaching out onto the roadway and also into the McGuagan Creek, which not only poses a hazard and was killing some fish and other potentially affecting other wildlife, but could cause a risk to humans that get that either through riding their bike or running along that pathway, or even from a car with their window down. So I would caution any residents from Riverview or North Trenton or anybody passing along the westbound West Jefferson towards the Groseal Bridge just past the full moon. When you come around that curve, you'll see that the property owner erected a fence to keep people off of that parcel or that portion of the property, as well as built maybe an 18-inch berm to keep the groundwater from running off into the street. But, you know, we get high water sometimes, so it could leak through there. And I would just encourage anybody to stay out of that water because it is high pH and can cause burns. I also, when we brought this forward to Eagle in the CAG meeting, they said they have no responsibility to leverage the property owner to put signs warning the public of this. And I'd like to urge you, Mayor Swift, as our representative for the city, to reach out to our Eagle representatives and ask them to urge the property owner to put some sort of signs on that area of the property and the creek to keep any unwitting people from getting those chemical burns.
Absolutely.
And, you know, that's all I'm going to have for today. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. Good evening, Council. My name's Kathy Lambert, and I live at 17079 Grange. I'm the wife of Ken Lambert. I walked in late, so I didn't get to hear the beginning of his statements. My next-door neighbors had 2 meetings privately with the city manager, with Jeff from DPW, with Sohio and herself in regards to us next door. We were not told about it outright. We found out privately that there was a meeting going on behind our back, and it's really upset me because I have to live next door to this lady. I'm paying almost $8,000 a year in taxes. So I tried to get an appointment back in November. It was canceled for an emergency. But what I'd like to know, because my husband said he didn't get an answer, why is it taking 6 months for us to get an appointment to see anybody, but yet my next door neighbor can jump in here real quick and have private meetings? Why is that?
I'll address it. We addressed, under other business, we answer the questions then, so.
I'm sorry.
I'll mention it towards the end of our meeting, we have a part that's called other business where I'll answer these questions.
Okay, I have one other thing I'd like to say. I've had ordinance repeatedly at my house. I don't care what I do, whether we had someone that passed away in our family, we put their car at the edge of the road with a for sale sign on our 2 acres. She called ordinance. I get a ticket over that for trying to sell a deceased member's car. I mean, just nonsense. If we go on the grass, which I found out it was my lawn anyway, after all these years. So when the ordinance lady did come over these posts that were put in, she was very loud and very abrupt, and she did startle me, but when I went into the building department, I found out that she's hard of hearing. So I don't know if she did not realize how hard she was screaming at me, but I understand that she had a problem with her hearing. But at 9 o'clock in the morning and you're not awake, it startles you. So anyway, it really bothers me that after she got done with all of this, I says, listen, for all these years, I've never called on this lady, but since you're on my property, I would like to show you something. She goes, I know you've had a problem with her, but she said, I wasn't invited over there. I said, you weren't invited here, and you're here now on me. She said, I'm going to tell you something. If you make me go back there, I will be writing you up. So here's what I'm getting at. She walked back there, looked at a 100-year-old barn that hasn't had a coat of paint on it in 23 years that the ladies lived there. The whole back of it's dilapidated, facing the football field. It should be on dangerous building. It hasn't had a coat of paint. The roof's dilapidated. And I'd like to know where her citations are. I've had them left and right. So if someone doesn't do anything, I'm going to call the state of Michigan. I have boys there with the fire department with dangerous building, and I'm going to contact somebody in Lansing or something if somebody does not do something with her. Because for whatever reason, she's getting a lot of favor in private meetings, and I've really had it. Because I'm trying to better my home, I'm adding on to my home, we try to take care of our home, and she's just, I don't know what her problem is, mental or what it is, but enough is enough with the favor with her over here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't come back up again.
Oh, he didn't come up before. Yeah. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ed Moss. I live at 18207 Valade. I'll have some questions in the middle of what I'm saying, but I'm going to have some comments at the beginning and the end, just so you know, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I wanted to say to Councilmember Norton, the person that was in your household, I hope everything turned out okay with that. But the one thing you reminded me of when you said that is sometimes we have a tendency to take certain things for granted. And I know I would say I don't recall having spoken about the fire department, but I believe we have the best fire department in the downriver area. It was true before you became Chief Lammers. It's still true today as far as I'm concerned. I am not a firefighter. I am not an expert on this. Thankfully, I've not had to call too many times, but I've had to call more being in Riverview than I would have cared for. But every time I have, been an excellent job by your department, and I commend you for that. The other thing I wanted to mention very briefly is, just so everybody knows, and I won't get too worried about this, is Bill Toll is recovering, and I'll leave it at that, and hopefully he'll be back for the next meeting, to be sure on that. In terms of my questions, regarding the rodents in Riverview speech, Mr. Mayor, my first question is, has that problem been eradicated? Second question is, was the letter by Mr. Skirtle only generated because of Councilmember Workman's neighbor where the rats went to his garage after he passed away, or were there secondary pockets or other pockets? And if it hasn't been eradicated, where are we in the process regarding that? And then also in regards to the parking ordinance that I've mentioned through email recently as well as a while ago, what is the ordinance, if there is any, and I wasn't able to find any, about one vehicle being parked in front of another, in front of the same house at the same time? I know we took care of the double parking issue, but that was not answered. And then lastly, so the public knows, I had to file a complaint against the dispatcher when I called the police department a few weeks ago because that dispatcher was accusing me of yelling, and she would rather get into a philosophical debate than somebody that was driving too fast down Belade, blowing their horn after they got through speaking to my neighbor at 18210 Valade. And usually those people are pretty good, but they seem to have some problems with me. And then that's the extent of my questions about that. Then in terms of my comments, I wanted to respond to the one comment you made about my awareness about the committee in regards to the time capsule. Yes, while it's true, I was not aware of that, Mr. Mayor. As mayor, I would have the council members do reports out of committees. That way, the public doesn't have to watch every committee in order to find out the information that they need. And I think that would make things a lot more streamlined in that regard. And then also, in terms of I don't want to answer for the council, but my understanding is when it comes to the Canadian trash, it's because we're getting more money per ton, and we're doing it to make the most efficient use of the landfill of the space we have left. I admit I had my reservations about taking Canadian trash until I had heard that, but obviously it makes sense because we need all the money we can get as the landfill fills up, because we only have a finite amount of space and we only have a finite amount of time. And I believe that'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any item council wants removed from the consent agenda? Scene 1, 9-1 award bid 2529 and authorize execution of agreement with Encotech for granulated activated carbon changeout in the amount of $29,990. 9-2 award bid 2534 and authorize execution of 3-year agreement for electrical maintenance and repairs and emergency and non-emergency services to Great Lakes Power and Lighting, Inc. 9-3, accept $900 donation from Architect University Masonic Lodge. 9-4, accept $7,900 check from Wayne County Firefighters Training Committee for the Fire Department training purposes. Budget amendments 9-5A, B, and C. What's council's pleasure?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Norton, supported by Councilman Robbins. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember, excuse me, Councilmember Robbins?
Yes.
Mayor Swift?
Yes.
Councilmember Workman?
Yes.
Councilmember Blanchett?
Yes.
Councilmember Norton?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Neill?
Yes.
10-1, adopt resolution authorizing updated PNC letter of credit and investment management account. What's council's pleasure?
So moved,
Somebody.
Your Honor.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Workman, supported by Councilwoman Blanchett. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Swift?
Yes.
Councilmember Workman?
Yes.
Councilmember Blanchett?
Yes.
Councilmember Norton?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Neill?
Yes.
Councilmember Robbins?
Yes.
11-1, authorize the preparation of plans and specifications, the solicitation of bids, and performing contract administration, inspection, testing, marketing as-built measurements by Charles E. Raines Company in the amount not to exceed $98,000 for street sectioning. What's council's pleasure?
So moved, Your Honor.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Workman, supported by Councilwoman Blanchett. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Workman?
Yes.
Councilmember Blanchett?
Yes.
Councilmember Norton?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Neill?
Yes.
Councilmember Robbins?
Yes.
Mayor Swift?
Yes. 11-2, authorize approval of the 2023 payment joint ceiling project cooperative contract with Al's Asphalt for the 2023 payment joint ceiling project in the amount of $153,000 and $153,090 plus 10% contingency in the amount of $15,309 for a total of $168,399, and authorize engineering fees with C.E. Raines Company to perform marketing, contract administration, inspection, and the as-built in amount not to exceed $12,000. What's council's pleasure?
So moved, Your Honor.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Workman, supported by Councilman Robbins. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Blanchett?
Yes.
Councilmember Norton?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Neill?
Yes.
Councilmember Robbins?
Yes.
Mayor Swift?
Yes.
Councilmember Workman?
Yes.
11-3, award bid 2531 and authorize execution of agreement with Cornerstone Environmental Group, Tetra Tech, for well-filled operations and management at the Riverview Land Preserve for $18,965 per month for an annual cost of $227,580. What's council's pleasure?
So moved.
Motion by Councilwoman O'Neill, supported by
Support.
Councilman Workman. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Norton?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Neill?
Yes.
Councilmember Robbins?
Yes.
Mayor Swift?
Yes.
Councilmember Workman?
Yes.
Councilmember Blanchett?
Yes.
11.4, authorized purchase of 2 Bomag compactors from Southeastern Equipment in the amount of $2,168,000. Before motion, I asked the city manager, Jeff Dobeck, if you give us some background and explanation on this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Your Honor, these are 2 new Bomags that will replace a couple used Bomags. We've had extreme failure with the 2 Bomags. They are 3 years old. Kev, correct? 3 years old. And they're exceeding the hours of warranty will be coming up. Historically, when we trade a Bomag in, we get $10,000 to $30,000. They're giving us $300,000 each. So applying this monies to the Bomags, our payment will go up about $28,000 a year. But they've already put $100,000 or $200,000 motors in these. They're already on the 3rd motor. Bomag has switched out the motors from a Mercedes to a Cummins, and with the expected life of the landfill, and all of our money's in compaction. These Bomags compact the trash, which then gives us the right amount of airspace. So if we don't have good compaction, then we have less airspace and therefore less sale dollars. So Kevin Sisk, our landfill director, and Rick, I'm not sure his last name, they went to Colorado, Southeastern, flew them there to see the new Bomags. They actually tested them and found that they're very good units. So we are going to trade in the 2 Bomags and take the 2 new Bomags. So it's not a $2 million purchase. It'll be less than that. And again, it's $28,000 additional dollars for 4 years.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Norton.
I would like to, through your chair, to personally thank Kevin at our last landfill meeting by educating. I'm new on the landfill committee, so it's kind of like a catch-up. But you explained it very well about how important that compaction rate is, and when you went out there, you saw the difference of what they were getting and how it can actually, correct me if I'm wrong, increase our compaction rate compared to the ones we have at present day. Is that a true statement? So I just would like to thank him for the way that he explained it so elegantly last Monday.
Very good. Anybody else? Then I'll look for a motion.
So moved, Your Honor.
Motion by Councilman Workman, supported by? Support. Councilman Robbins. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember O'Neill?
Yes.
Councilmember Robbins?
Yes.
Mayor Swift?
Yes.
Councilmember Workman?
Yes.
Councilmember Blanchett?
Yes.
Councilmember Norton?
Yes.
12.1, authorize first reading by title only of the proposed ordinance number 741 to amend the zoning ordinance for the city of Riverview by the adoption of section 20.05, conditional rezoning, to Article 20, procedures and standards, community development. What's council's pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Norton, supported by Councilwoman O'Neill. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Robbins?
Yes.
Mayor Swift?
Yes.
Councilmember Workman?
Yes.
Councilmember Blanchett?
Yes.
Councilmember Norton?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Neill?
Yes.
Proposed zoning ordinance number 741, an ordinance to amend the City of Riverview zoning ordinance by adding section 20-05, conditional rezoning, to Article 20, procedures and standards.
Now it's time for other business. Any other business council wants to bring up at this time before we respond to the guest and visitor comments? All right, I will start. I'll address the Lamberts on this one. The best I can say is I realized we must have had a meeting set up last November. I don't remember, but it got canceled for whatever reason. Then next thing I know is a couple weeks ago, we tried getting a meeting set up. My schedule's been really full, and we've had some family issues to deal with during that time. And to be honest, I'm just not available till June 1st. I think we have a meeting set up, I believe. I'm sorry, there can't be a response. So if that's not right, the city manager will let me know. But I'm not available until that time. I do know we have met with your neighbor. I'm not going to use anybody's names a couple times. The first one, I think, dealt with the work that was done on your property, but the second one, the main focus was, you mentioned the barn. So let me just say this, I know both, I hope I'm right, both parties have been cited for something. So there's obviously issues here between the two neighbors. And as far as the ordinance for the dirt, we've had many situations in the community where one neighbor changes the elevation of their property and it creates an issue for their neighbor. That is part of your neighbor's issue, and that may have been an impetus to doing the ordinance, but I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to go out here on a limb and saying, we pass an ordinance, we can't go back and do something to somebody for something that's been done already. It's from that point on. I will say, because it's been brought to my attention, obviously we went with Sohail and Jeff. Lost my train of thought, but I'll get it back. Oh, your issues, and there are issues there, I admit that. They're not with the city, they're with the county. I think the work that was done involved the Franken Poet drain. And I know they're doing that salute. It's really between the county. We're not in control of the Franken Poet drain. If there's anything done to that drain to change the flow, change anything, change elevation, that's the county's responsibility to work, and I don't know, the state haven't made some type of input. So that was the gist of the meeting. When I meet with the residents, it's not a secret meeting, it's a public meeting. Anybody who wants to come can join us, but it's not a meeting we advertise for people to come to, because it's usually an issue, have a neighbor complaining about another neighbor. So we always encourage that the neighbors get together and resolve that. I don't think that can happen here, but your issues really aren't with the city as far as the work that's been done now. With the passage of the ordinance, then I'm assuming, Dave, this is something that gives us a little control when somebody changes an elevation. Am I correct with that?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So that's part of the impetus for the ordinance. Well, that's as far as yours guys' issue goes. Mr. Upton's actually many good points, and I guess it's just if it's communication or whatever, how you get this word out. Council it'll be before us. Do we take Canadian trash? That's certainly an option. We're still recovering from the effects of COVID. Obviously, the landfill business took a hit, as all businesses closed, but now they're opening back up, so it's starting to come back. And it's one of the options we may take. I would say if we do take Canadian trash, it would be for a limited amount of time to fill in some financial gaps, but it's the prudent thing to do. Certainly, somebody else mentioned, we have limited space, we have limited time, and we're going to make the most of that, because it's going to take 10 years to wean us from the landfill. That's just reality. I've said that a million times. That's reality. As far as cannabis, 10 to 12, I have mentioned a few times, even I think I put it in the register, I use the term 9 to 12. We have 4 right now. We have 5 that have been on hold or declined. So I don't know how the breakup is. It's 3 declined, 2 on hold, those types of things. But we had a total of, I'm going to get this right, we have a total of 12 submissions.
Correct.
Okay. So obviously, some of those, of the 5, I don't know what the number is, were declined. And the other ones are on hold because of the spacing that we have defined.
Correct.
So, I mean, there's a myriad of issues why the number is what it is. The reality is that we have open space in the city where there aren't currently structures that qualify for a site for cannabis. So there's lots along Fort Street between Burger King and there's spaces available. We have 4 on the way, so that's what we'll have by the end of the year. Now, it's been brought up several times, many ways, that the city is going to get sued because of the ballot proposal. I'll say again, so everybody knows, the city council, myself, any council members up here, had nothing to do with the ballot initiative. that was all resident-driven, whoever they were financed by. But they had the right to do a petition, they did it. They were required to get around 277 signatures. They got 700. I know a good chunk of that 700 were declined for a myriad of reasons. So they did have 3 times the number. So it's we're moving on as if we're supposed to. We're doing our due diligence on the licenses and making sure all the code and stuff is met. So we'll do that until we're told to stop. So we'll just continue on with that. As far as the Arkema property, the brownfield redevelopment, I do understand that Arkema, I think they're finally advertising or promoting the property at some stage. Dave, do you have any background on that?
The property they consider the West Brine Field.
Yes.
They're right now in process of doing an environmental investigation to find out where the hot spots are. They did reach out to an industrial developer who has contacted us. It was last year. But they said it'd be 2 or 3 years down the road yet before they can get everything through EPA and get the cleanup funds and taken care of.
Yep. So we are moving forward. I do, Mr. Upton, it's painfully slow. That's just how it is. So we're trying to keep that pressure on. It just has to be done. So, that's something we are pursuing. Oh, yeah, I got that. The number 4, the sale of the property across from the cemetery. We do have roughly 40 acres across from Ferndale Cemetery that we are now developing. Are we going out for bid, or we just approved that, I believe. So we will get some requests for proposals on the use of that property. There's many things actually tonight on the variable ordinances or the that we just voted on, or zoning. Variable zoning, I can't remember what the term is. Conditional zoning. So that will allow many different options for us to use that property. So hopefully that will happen before too long. And yes, actually it works better to have houses on it. You don't normally like selling property if you're a municipality for one-time money, but at least this way it'll return the property to the tax rolls, and whatever property taxes we collect in that will be more than a vacant lot. So I'm trying to think. Okay. Well, same man just reminded me. There's 9 acres off of Grange Road, too. That will be part of the proposal. And I'm trying to look here. I think that's everybody. Anything else council wants to bring up at this time?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Norton.
Through your chair to the city manager, what is our tonnage rate right now at the landfill compared to pre-COVID? Are we still down?
You mean like the average daily rate?
Yes, average daily rate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mayor, Councilman Norton, we are down probably, what, 20%, Kevin? 30%.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor, I have 2
Yes, sir.
more.
Go ahead.
When is the last time we, as a city, officially sat down and talked to Congresswoman Dingell about the Arkema property?
Well, I don't think we have as a council. I know I have, and Dave has, and former city manager has several times. But it's probably been a year, I think, or more since we met in Wyandotte.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then my third one, when it comes to the cannabis, we said that there was 12 submissions, 4 were approved, 5 are in basically limbo right now. 2 things that were put in that ordinance was, number 1, you already have to be state licensed doing business within the state. Number 2, you have to have a address location secure. Do we know out of those 5 if they were put in limbo for those 2 things that were within the ordinance?
Out of those 5, I think 1 was, they're all spacing. I'm trying to think, but no, they always get vetted for addresses and items through the clerk's office, comes to our office, and we check spacing. So right now, 2 of them have to make some adjustments in order to meet spacing. Another 3 are definitely just, one cannabis place has to go out of business before another one can go in.
Okay, so all of the 5 are currently doing business within the state? Pardon me?
I'm not, I'm imagining they went through the clerk's office. That was a vetting process with the clerk's office, so I'm assuming.
Oh, that's fine. I don't
So,
expect you to have it.
And that's find outable. But the real question is of all those 5, they went through some screening process to this point, and they'd have to be doing business. So you have to qualify to get to the point where even you can actually do an address, get it, secure a facility, and then provide whatever thing the ordinance calls for. So, but we can find that out.
Okay, I appreciate that. And the one thing that I would like to say, I mean, unfortunately, Councilwoman Ganaga is in here. She was on the committee with Councilwoman O'Neill and myself. The city attorney, Mr. Hurley, who's actually here today, when we talked about putting a number on it, if we did that, then we would have to have a selection committee. And sir, you are the attorney. The reason that we didn't go that route is because with selection committees and case law, that's when lawsuits came in. Would that be safe to say, Mr. Hurley?
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely. That's the triggering thing. Any city that has a limit on it, they will pretty much get sued because by the people who weren't selected by the selection committee. That's been the bulk of the litigation.
Right. So there was 10 people on the committee, 3 council members, Councilwoman O'Neill, Councilwoman Ganaga, myself, the police chief, Dave Skirdo, the city manager, school superintendent, and 2 residents. One of those residents is actually on the planning commission. So we all were in agreement that that was not a good idea. That it left the committee 8-2 to bring it to council, but all 10 of us were aware that if we put a number on it, because of case law, it would be much better off putting the 300 feet from residential, 300 feet from other cannabis businesses, and that type of stuff. And yes, some of the green area, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Hurley, is the property over on West Jefferson that's contaminated, but that's privately owned. So unless they were willing to remediate and sell it, I mean, it would be hard to get 12 in the area that is designated now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. Anybody else?
Your Honor,
Councilman Robbins?
just real quick, it's my understanding that if in the event we did decide to bring Canadian garbage in, that actually would be beneficial for the purpose of the new gas plant, because it's already sorted, I was told, and it's more household. BTMUs, Jeff? I'm sorry, I'm still
pretty good.
I apologize, but the gas is quality, more so.
Jeff?
Yes, Mayor, through your chair to Councilman Robbins, that is correct. A lot of Canadian trash, when it comes, it's transfer loads, which means it's already been sorted, and construction materials and plastics do not make the good gas. It's the table scraps that make good methane gas, which then turn around and help us with royalties. And I think the term you're looking for is our royalty will be paid a certain dollar amount per MMBTU. And that's how we'll be calculated. So, in one fashion, it compresses good, so it doesn't use up as much space. The second is it makes great methane gas, which then makes great royalty, which then makes better for the city.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Your Honor.
Councilman Workman?
Through your chair to the city manager. And therefore, if we were to take that, that would extend the life of the gas plant, am I correct? And which would extend the amount of money that we would be getting into the city.
Yeah, through the
Go
mayor
ahead.
to Councilman Workman, yes. So there is a curve to gas and trash. The trash you put in today doesn't make gas today. It makes gas at a later date. So we do get the advantage of our old trash right now, making gas. And as we put this trash in, the bell curve is like 25 years. So we'll be receiving royalties from now until 25 years. So if we only have 10 to 12 years to go, that 10 to 12 years will be producing gas for another 10 to 12 years, So
So in the, I'll just add to that, the predicted amount, we obviously have a contract with DTE and Riverview Energy Systems, right, for royalties. And we're guaranteed $400,000 a year in royalties, minimum?
Your Honor, that's correct. That was put into that, and that was very conservative.
And we spent not even a penny on building the plant.
Correct, Mayor. They are building a $55 million plant, as everyone can see it going down Sibley Road. That was zero cost to us. We're just to give them all gas except for 100 SCFMs, which those 100 SCFMs run our CNG gas pump at the landfill.
So, Your Honor,
Councilman Workman.
to the city manager, if we were to just take the trash from around here and not take that, then we would shorten that 25 years substantially. Also, we would shorten our compaction. Also, we would shorten our air space, which is what we sell. Am I correct?
Through the mayor to Councilman Workman, you are correct. We just can't take the trash in Riverview to put in the hill and make it profitable. We'd love to take 3,000 tons a day. That's what we're built to take. That'll make the good gas, and that'll produce the revenue needed to support the landfill itself. We're not even talking about the city. We have to wean ourselves off the distribution from the landfill to the city. That's what we're talking about. The landfill has to fill its escrow accounts for closure, post-closure. So in my plan, the city's going to stop receiving funds in 2 years, 3 years from the landfill. So the city has to figure out how to run its city on its net proceeds from taxes and other funds.
Mr. Dobek, that includes the gas plant, which was in the plan by the landfill committee from years ago, that we were going to offset some of the cost of possibly not getting an expansion, so that we didn't have to raise the taxes as high as we did, and we were able to successfully put in a plant.
Correct.
And at no cost to the citizens.
Correct.
And now we're hearing people that don't want us to put the Canadian trash in and shorten the amount of time that we're going to get gas. It's an unusual thing, but
Well,
I guess that's just what we have to do.
So I think your point is, as a good one is, it took several years to get to this point, and several challenges.
8.
Yes, so it finally came to fruition earlier this year, late last year. And when is the anticipated date for that plant to go online?
So there's two phases. Once construction's complete and they start testing, they'll test for a few months, and then it's called commissioning. And once they commission the plant, which they hope to start testing in the fall, and commission it the first of the year. And as soon as it starts, once it's commissioned, it will be making top grade methane gas that's pipeline quality, and it will be put in the pipeline. So they can deliver that to wherever they want. And with the RIN credits, the way they are with the government, they'll probably take our gas from, believe it or not, from Riverview and somehow get it to California and Oregon where there's the biggest credits. So that's very unique, but that's what's going to happen. That's what they're in the business of doing. That's how DTE, who is actually our partners, DTE Biomass, under Revenue Energy Systems, that's how they do it. So that's why it's very important to them.
And I did get questions earlier about all the stakes and going along Sibley Road towards Fort Street from the landfill. And those are markings for, they're actually going to connect to the gas line at Fort Street. So they kind of go all the way from the landfill to Fort Street. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. The gas line will go from the plant down the little service road by the golf course, Grange, we call it Grange, and it'll go down Grange to Sibley, and it'll be, I think they're injection borings, correct, Ohio? And that'll go all the way to Fort Street where it'll tie into the DTE main gas line is on Fort Street.
That's directional drilling process.
Okay. Anything else?
One last
Go ahead.
clarification. We've worked with Adafina on that property for the last 20 years, and it's been a nightmare. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else? With that, I will look for a motion to adjourn from Councilwoman Blanchett.
So moved, Your Honor.
Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Councilwoman O'Neill. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Swift.
Yes.
Councilmember Workman.
Yes.
Councilmember Blanchett.
Yes.
Councilmember Norton.
Yes.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Yes.
Councilmember Robbins.
Yes.
Let the record show we adjourned at 8 o'clock. Thank you.